Okay, welcome to my YouTube channel. The purpose of this channel is to highlight different jobs that will generate a good income to support a family on or yourself. And we're going to look at all sorts of jobs from careers that require a college degree, don't require a college degree, master's degrees, doctorates, the full range, hopefully giving insight into which occupations are going to be best fit for you and your skill set and your interests. If you're looking to make a career shift, if you're looking to start your career, be it out of high school or out of college, hopefully this proves to be a fruitful resource for you. So with that, the first video I'd like to get into, we're going to go through the top 50 highest paying jobs in the US, as well as, if we have time, the lowest 50 paying jobs in the US. And hopefully you don't find yourself currently occupying one of those lowest 50. If you do, stay tuned on this channel because we're going to be going through hundreds, if not thousands, of all of the job opportunities that are out there, how to get into them, how much they pay, what the work-life balance looks like, and ultimately giving you the tools you need to decide, is that something I can do? So with that being said, let's dive in to the top 50 highest paying jobs. Number one, well, before I get into the list, let me say this. These are national averages. Certainly there are outliers. So you might find someone who does earn more than a doctor. And they might be a business owner. They might be a YouTuber. They might be an Uber driver. I don't know. There are certainly outliers, so keep that in mind. This list is going to be an average, nationwide average. Okay. So with that being said, let's jump into it. Number one on the list is a physician or surgeon. Probably no surprise to you that this is number one on the list. Mom and dad always say be a doctor or a lawyer. So doctors in the United States, their earning potential is anywhere from $200,000 a year to $500,000 a year, 500,000, and beyond. The limit of earning is somewhat uncapped because of the ability to open private practice. So at that point, you somewhat become a business owner. But the range of 200 to 500,000 is if you are a W-2 employee working for a hospital or someone else's private practice. Okay, and this is broad strokes, doctors across the board. So this is surgeons, family physicians, pathologists, you name it. These are anyone with MD or DO at the end of their name. Okay, dermatologists, etc. So you're going to get varying ranges. For instance, a dermatologist is going to make a lot more money than a family physician doc, like your primary care doc. Primary care doc probably looking at 200,000 to 300,000. Maybe if they run their own private practice that's very successful, maybe you're looking at 500,000 to 600,000 a year. But if you're a dermatologist and you're running a very successful clinic that offers a wide range of services, you could easily be making $2+ million a year. So just keep that in mind. Um, Number two, and a lot of people forget about this one, but it's a dentist. And I think you forget about it because you see the dentist, if you're like me, once every 3 years. That's because, look at those pearly whites. But dentists, they earn anywhere from 150,000 to 300,000 and beyond. Now I can tell you the 150 to $300,000 range. That's typically if you are a dentist that's working for someone else. So let's say you just graduated dental school and you start off working for a already established dentistry clinic. So you are a W-2 9 to 5 worker, and dentistry is interesting because it's based on production. So it's almost similar to um, a salesperson on commissions. So you don't get a salary per se. Your income is based on production. How many patients you see, what the billing is per patient. So if you just do a checkup versus a filling, right? The filling you're going to be able to make more money on. And if you do a implant, that's going to be even more. And implants require extra training. So you really are your own asset as a dentist, and maybe you take those services to another dental clinic. Um, and in that case, you're an employee. You would share the billing revenue with the practice, right? And so that's something you can negotiate if you're if you're if you're in dental school right now, or you are considering being a dentist. How you would negotiate your pay is typically based on the percentage of production that you generate. I know a little bit more about this because my father-in-law and brother-in-law are both dentists. I'm not, so I do know a bit about it, and you can earn quite a bit of money as a dentist. Even if you don't own your own practice, a lot of people think you gotta own your own practice to be a successful dentist, and you don't. It just depends on your income goals. If earning $300,000 a year is sufficient for you, and you don't want to have the stress of owning your own business, then that's a very viable option. Now, if you do end up starting your own practice, um, you you obviously become a business owner, but you typically don't stop being a dentist, right? So you're still seeing patients every day, all day. So you not only need to do the normal things a dentist does and produce, but you also need to run your business, and that includes hiring, firing, training, um, daily management, um, facilities management. You might own the building, you might be leasing the building. So all of those priorities of a business owner get tacked on to being a dentist. Now, you should be able to about double your income if you own your own clinic. So if you were making $200,000 to $300,000 as a employee dentist, you should be able to make 400 to 700,000 if you own your own practice, and that's pretty middle of the road for a successful dentist. In, let's say, a rural area. Now if you open a dental practice in a very urban area with a high volume of patients, with a handful of other dentists producing, right? The ceiling's really limited, um, or I'm sorry, is unlimited, depending on how much you want to grow your business, right? If you're looking at it as a business. Now, there's only so many people in the local area that need dental work done. So, at some point, you're going to tap out that market share in that area. And in which case, you see a lot of dentists open up a new clinic in a adjacent town, perhaps. And then they will rinse and repeat. And now they have two practices, and they effectively could double their income. And at that point, when you start opening two, three, four dental practices, at that point you tend to pull yourself away from the day to day. So your life really doesn't look like a dentist anymore. You really look more like a business owner, right? So if that's not something you want to do, then I would put your head down and just be a dentist. Okay. I know folks who have gone to dental school because they were businessmen and their goal was to start working as a dentist, make some money, open up their own practice, and then scale that up. And then there's other dentists that don't have that. Um, they don't want to do that. They just want to be a dentist. And there's nothing wrong about that. You should, and we need those guys. So that's dentistry. 150 to 300,000 if you work for someone else. About 600 to 750,000 if you open your own clinic, and then probably a million plus if you own more than one clinic or one practice. Okay, number three, pharmacist. Um, this one I don't know too much about, other than what you see from the consumer end, which is going and picking up your pills from Rite Aid or Walgreens. Earning range for a pharmacist is anywhere from 120,000 to 160 plus, maybe 200,000 tops. Um, and and that can vary depending on location, right? It's going to be different if you're in Idaho versus Seattle. Um, so, pharmacists, they might be able to make up to $300,000 um, depending on the market that they're in, the labor market specifically. So if there's a particular area in the country that has a lower demand or lower supply of pharmacists, you might find yourself able to leverage a higher wage, as well as experience. So um, pharmacists are one of those jobs that get overlooked quite a bit. You don't need a medical degree. So many people think there's um, a medical degree required for being a pharmacist, and there's not. Um, it does require a college degree. It may require more than a college degree, um, but it is very specialized. So if you do go to school and training to become a pharmacist, there's not there's not much lateral movement ability. In other words, the skills don't translate all that much into other industries. So keep that in mind. It is a great job, a high paying job, but you can't translate that to much else. And it's not dissimilar to a dentist or a doctor like we spoke of before, but it's very specialized. Okay, number four, enterprise architect. What is an enterprise architect? They design and implement complex computer systems for businesses. So, um, businesses either operate, well, they used to operate almost entirely on servers, physical servers on site. So uh, imagine a bank, right? Let's say you're an office worker at a bank. Their computers are all connected to the same server. And that server is a piece of hardware that lives physically on site at that location. And it's managed by the business itself. So they may have an IT personnel on staff, and all that person does is manage the server, the IT, the hardware. They're responsible for the protection, the firewall protection for viruses and hackers. Using the bank example as an extreme case, you could imagine that's the highest priority compared to really any other business in terms of cybersecurity. So, a enterprise architect, they very likely may work for a large IT firm. Um, And these IT firms, maybe they sell servers, or maybe they just provide services. So maybe you buy, HP servers, um, but the service of actually maintaining the servers, putting in firewall protections, updating software, making sure the whole business has all of their IT needs. There's businesses that's all they do. And they would have enterprise architects on staff. So if you could imagine um, owning a business that has a office of 200 employees, and let's say they're all sales reps, customer service reps, and I don't know, doesn't matter what they're selling, but they're at an office building. Well, that's going to require um, a pretty large scope of IT infrastructure. And an enterprise architect's job is to make sure they have all of the assets they need in place to achieve their goals as a business. So 100 years ago, it just looked like maybe cash registers and physical ledgers people were writing on. But nowadays, everything is done digitally, saved digitally, and we need to communicate with each other. So as we process data, we need to store it somewhere, and that needs to be safe. So laying all of that out, much like you lay the blueprints out for a home before it gets built, right? An architect gives the blueprints based on the needs of the land of the family building the home. Let's say they want a 5,000 square foot house with 10 bedrooms on a 1 acre plot of land that's slightly sloped northeast, um, and the road runs perpendicular. Based on the environment, that architect needs to build the blueprints to make sense, and then they give that to the contractor to physically build that out. And the contractor relies on the architect's drawings, that they're accurate, and that they will lead to a successful build. So that way you can just focus on building the house and not have to think about, will this work in the end, right? So same as an enterprise architect, they're going to build out the plan and um, based on the needs of the environment. And then someone else will go in and install the servers and put up the computers and install the firewalls and set up the protections. So um, that's an enterprise architect. I don't actually know if I mentioned the salary range yet. It's 120,000 to about 200,000, and of course that's going to depend on experience, seniority, um, location, right? So if you're in Silicon Valley, where there's doing a lot of IT companies, a lot of technology getting developed, or let's say Austin, Texas, right? Um, an enterprise architect is you're likely going to get paid more because there's a much higher demand. Now there might also be a higher supply of folks like you, other enterprise architects. So you may have to compete a bit more on wage via negotiation, but for the most part, the demand should likely outweigh the supply of enterprise architects. All right, so you go to Bozeman, Montana, you're probably not going to be able to earn as high of a wage. Now, if all of a sudden tons of businesses are moving into Bozeman, Montana, which they are, and you happen to be one of the only enterprise architects, well, that's good for you. Last note on this, many companies are starting to do a lot of remote work, and this is certainly one that could be done remotely. So back to my Bozeman, Montana example, if you are an enterprise architect, you may actually be sitting in Austin, Texas, and for a IT firm, and but the client is in Bozeman, Montana. So you can still do your job and not physically be there. So that is one of the pros of any um, computer job is work remote. So programming, um, design work, right? Laying out the plans for a new IT infrastructure. You can do that work remote. So keep that in mind as you consider the salary range. Is it enough? Is it not? Well, that's one of the big pros is you should be able to do this work remote. Um, Now, this is all assuming you're an employee, right? So a company looking to hire an enterprise architect, um, they're going to be paying anywhere from $120,000 to $180,000 a year. Now, if you want to just go start your own IT services business, that's a completely different ball of wax because you are now the enterprise architect, sure, but you're also the on-site fix-it guy, and you're also taking requests to make additions and uh, maybe adding a computer workstation because a new employee was hired, updating firewalls. So there's, yes, you're the enterprise architect, but because you are your own service now, you're likely more than just that. Of course, as time goes on, you may scale that business up um, and hire other people to do the other tasks, and you just do the architecture work. Okay, moving on. A corporate counsel. So these are lawyers, also known as business lawyers, and they're lawyers that give legal advice to corporations. So oftentimes with the smaller to mid-sized companies, they will um, they'll hire out a lawyer. So you may have just a local law firm, that you work with exclusively. I know for my business, that's what we do. We don't have a lawyer on staff, but we have a law firm, and specifically a lawyer at that law firm that we work with all the time. So they're very familiar with our business, but they're not a lawyer that you're going to see in court. They're not uh, arguing, making arguments for their clients, right? They're not a defense attorney or a prosecutor. They specifically specialize in business law. So anything from entities, um, mergers, acquisitions, patents, things of that nature. That's what these lawyers specialize in. And that's the most common form of law in today's world in the United States, is making sure that your business is protected, right? So they're not doing civil suits. Um, they're not doing murder defenses, right? That's a different type of practice of law than business. Uh, but they still go to law school. So if you're a corporate counsel or business lawyer, you still have to go to law school. You still have to pass the bar. So you get the same training up front as any other, prosecutor or defense attorney. But you then go on to specialize in something else. So very similar to how a doctor goes through uh, medical school and then they decide to specialize. Same thing. Um, and the earning range as a corporate counsel is $120,000 to $200,000 plus, right? And this range is specifically if you get hired by a company, typically a big corporation, to be their lawyer, right? So think of the big Fortune 500s, Google, Twitter, Facebook, and those are obviously massive companies, but even PepsiCo, right? Think of these big corporations, General Motors, Ford. They're gonna have lawyers as employees, so they're not going to XYZ law firm to get counsel. They hire their own lawyers that work for them. Um, Part of the reason is because what they're dealing with can be such classified information that they don't even want to go to a third party for counsel. They want to keep their information so protected that they have their own folks on staff to give them counsel. And because of that, they have to pay more than just going to a law firm, right? Because think about if you're a lawyer you have the opportunity to perhaps open your own law firm or go work for a law firm and represent thousands of different clients, right? Concurrently. So you take a client one day and you do work for them, and then the next day you do different work for another client, and you're billing those clients out, which can be very lucrative. If you take a job as a W-2 employee for a corporation, you give them 100% of your time. So you don't have the option to go bill clients on the side. Excuse me. So you have to get a wage that's fair, right? The opportunity cost of not being able to bill clients yourself has to be taken into account. So if I'm a lawyer and I want to do this for a corporation, I need to consider that. How much could I make if I were to open up XYZ law firm and take on clients? If it's $150,000 a year, then I might want to make sure that the job I take at I don't know, um, Hewlett Packard. It's my computer is Hewlett Packard. I need to make sure that that's going to be worth my while, right? So I might want to charge or negotiate $180,000 a year. Why? Well, because I could make 150 on my own. So I want an extra $30,000 to be exclusive, right? To get married to you, so to speak. So, yes, corporations do pay a premium for these guys, but what they get out of it is dedicated counsel 24/7, essentially, right? Anytime their working hours are there, they can use that counsel unlimited, not get billed for. So they have their legal costs capped for the most part by having folks on staff. Really big corporations are going to have a team of counsel, right? Different people that specialize in different things. All right, so as you grow in this career, let's say you always stay corporate counsel and you work for different corporations, and there's folks that's what they do. Then the $200,000 top end, you're going to be far above that, right? If you're 25 years into your career as corporate counsel for big corporations, you may be leading a team of other lawyers underneath you. And you may be giving direct counsel to a CEO or a CFO of a huge corporation like GM. Well, in that case, you're probably making upwards of $1 million a year, maybe more. So there is quite large upside if you stick in it for long enough and you're talented. This one is not just training, but you need to be very talented to be successful as corporate counsel. You need to be very smart, very talented. Okay, moving on. Software development manager. So this is someone who oversees software development teams, right? So keyword here, manager, not just a software developer. And they're making sure projects are completed on budget, on time. Typically, these projects are for other clients. So this type of role is typically within a company that is like a software development company. So they're creating apps and softwares for other companies, their clients. And the income range here is 130 to 190,000. Now, this is going to depend as well on location. So where are you? Are you in Austin, Texas, or are you in Boise, Idaho? The demand for a good software development manager is going to be vastly different if you're in Boise, Idaho, compared to Austin, Texas. Imagine you own a software development company that's making apps for their clients. So that's how they make money. Company comes to them and says, hey, we've got a new product, we've got a new service, or we're a new company. we need an app to do what we need to do. Can you develop it for us? And they say, yeah, we can. Here's an estimate. It's going to cost $30,000 to develop this app that you want, and we can do it in 4 months. Great. Company says, here's $30,000, make me my app. Well, here's where the software development manager would come in, and they would intake that project, and they may have a team of 2, maybe 10, right? Maybe 15 different software developers that they manage. The size of the team that you manage is probably going to be very much correlated to how much you get paid, right? Because imagine if you're running a team of 25 software developers and you guys are cranking out these clients' projects quickly, effectively, you're producing a lot of revenue for the company that you work for. All right, so if you're able to effectively manage a ton of software developers, well, then that means that they're creating a ton of revenue for the company, in which case you're going to be getting paid quite a bit, right? So your ability to succeed at managing and growing a team of software developers to produce high margin, might I add, high margin products for a software development company is going to directly impact the amount that you're going to get paid. And you would need to renegotiate that every year. Right? So if you're managing a team of 2, likely you're either new or the company is small, right? And of course, if they're small, a team of 2 is not generating all that much revenue. They're taking on less projects, so they can't pay you as much, right? I think that makes sense. So the $190,000 cap can go far and away above that if you find yourself as a senior manager at a massive software company in Austin, Texas, developing apps for Nikon and you name it, any Carhartt, Home Depot. I don't know, these big companies that need apps, right? Home Depot is not an app developer. They would pay a firm to make them an app, and the size of that company, they're probably going to want a sweet app, probably something very complex. That app might cost $500,000 to develop. And then yearly updates to that app, improving it, maintaining it. They might put it on a service contract to say, yeah, here's $500,000 company to make me an app. But then also, here's $100,000 every year to just maintain that app, make sure there's no bugs, fix the app, improve the app, update the customer experience. And if you could land a client like Home Depot as a software developing company, imagine the software development manager that you assign that project to. They better be damn good. And in order to make sure they're damn good, they need to get paid very well. So, as a software development manager, you're probably going to start out as a software developer. But to grow into a manager, you need to be able to manage people. So, if you're someone who is just really good at coding, but have no desire to manage people, in fact, aren't even good at working with people, then this one's going to be tough for you, because the best software development managers in the world aren't necessarily the best, software developers. They're not the best coders. Much like, Barry Sanders was the best running back of all time. That doesn't mean he would be the best coach of all time. You see what I'm saying? So you're not the best coder in the world. I wouldn't let that stop you from pursuing a management career. That doesn't mean you couldn't be, just because you're not a good coder, that doesn't mean you couldn't be good at managing a team of other coders. Maybe you're better at that. Many are. Okay, moving on. A physician's assistant. this is one that has becoming is getting a little bit more attention in the last couple of decades, I feel, as the healthcare industry expands and is becoming more lucrative. Doctors want to see more patients. They're only one person, so in order to see more patients, they need some sort of assistant. Enter physician's assistant. Earning range is anywhere from about $100,000 to $150,000. This is obviously going to depend on tenure, experience. So, what a PA does is they work under a physician, right? So they work for a physician, and they're hands-on with the patient. So they'll see a patient. Sometimes they'll see a patient um, in place of their physician. So sort of like a qualifier, right? If it's something the PA can handle themselves, maybe it's just a routine checkup. Maybe they do the physical, and then the doctor comes in and signs off on that. So they can do quite a bit of tasks for physicians, but it's still the physicians that's signing off. It's still the physician's insurance. It's still the physician's business that the PA is working for. So they represent the physician, and their goal is to make the physician happy, make their job easier, and help them to see more patients. So the better a PA is at that, the better, the more they're going to get paid. And typically, they're good friends with the physician because they work so closely over the years. Um, and typically, if you are a PA, you're working for a physician who has a very successful practice. Imagine if you're a physician that doesn't see a lot of patients and you're not very successful. Well, you don't have the room, financially speaking, to be hiring an assistant, right? So it's a good gig for folks that maybe don't want to be a doctor. They don't want to go to med school. Maybe they don't want to take that risk or investment, not just money, but time as well. An extra, 4 years plus residency. But they do want to see patients, um, and they do want to have a healthy work-life balance, and they want to make quite a bit of money. This is a good role for them, especially in the family physician, family practice model. Um, it's a nice work-life balance. So, yeah, a top end 140, 150. Again, if you are a PA with a very successful physician, it could be higher, right? If you help your physician earn more, they're going to pay you more. Easy. All right, next one, nurse practitioner. A nurse practitioner, they almost like a step above a nurse, so they can do more than a nurse. Um, they can administer drugs, um, and obviously the under the umbrella of the doctor. So similar to a PA, where everything they do, they're operating under the umbrella of a particular MD within a hospital system or a family practice. But they're just legally able to do more. So because they're able to do more, they're able to take things off of the plate of a physician or um, or a well, really any doctor. And because of that, they would get paid more than a normal nurse. Range here is about 90,000 to 130,000. So, they're almost making as much as a PA. And it's a very similar day to day. I'm not certain on the specific intricacies of the day to day differences between a PA and a nurse practitioner. I imagine a nurse practitioner typically finds themselves more in hospital systems where a PA finds themselves more in a family practice. So I don't think I don't think you're getting out of a lot of the things that a normal nurse does. I think all that's happening is more responsibilities are able to get added on to you, and therefore you get paid more. Okay, next one, petroleum engineer. They develop methods for extracting oil and other gases from the earth. Obviously, this is going to become even higher in demand as the magnifying glass gets put on fossil fuels, as it has been the last 10, 15 years. It's going to be even more so the case as we go on. So, our ability to find effective fossil fuels here on Earth is going to be in very high demand in the coming years. So the current average range is 80,000 to 150,000. I see that only going up as some of these auto manufacturers and frankly governments have an interest in prolonging the lifespan of fossil fuel products. Let's not kid ourselves. Fossil fuels still are the most effective way of powering engines, electric vehicles, electric engines and motors. I shouldn't say engines, electric motors. Although the motor itself is not putting off any harmful exhaust, the manufacturing process of those batteries is quite detrimental to the environment and very expensive. So we're still not quite at a place where electric everything makes sense, because the total consequences of creating those batteries is a large negative externality. So if you're considering becoming a petroleum engineer, you're going to want to be very cognizant of the market you're in. So if you are a petroleum engineer and you're in Michigan, I'd probably move to Texas, California, right? Somewhere that has a bigger market for finding petroleum under the Earth's surface. Now, in the United States, we have a lot of petroleum. We have yet to dig up. We do dig it up, but we really haven't put our foot on the gas, no pun intended, of getting petroleum out of the earth. It's been less expensive for us over the last several decades to get it from the Middle East. Obviously, that comes with a price, as we know, and it's probably not going to be effective forever, as all of the world gets much of their petroleum from the Middle East, right? We're dependent on that. We still are. As much as the electric vehicles have come along, we're still very dependent on gasoline. It's still the leader in transportation right now, and in gasoline motors. So there's certainly a big demand still for petroleum engineers, and I see that number going up, only going up, especially as we're looking for other ways besides petroleum-based fossil fuels. Okay, next one, financial manager. This is sometimes thought of as a financial advisor, wealth management. So they're creating reports, they're managing portfolios, they're actually they're doing direct investments, typically of clients' money, for long-term returns. So most commonly, you're seeing this in the form of retirement planning, financial advising. Many people have someone like this as they kind of get settled into their career. They have a financial advisor, and you may give your financial advisor X percent of your income every year, and they put it in a Roth IRA or some sort of fund. And the idea is that it's your little nest egg, and you're going to get that when you retire, and it's worth a lot more than what you put into it. Maybe over the years you invested $100,000, little by little every year you put money in. But then when you retire, that $100,000 is worth $1 million. Right? That would be amazing. That's a great return. So if that is your case, you have a phenomenal financial advisor. Typically, returns are 6-7% year over year. But the idea is you put in money now, and it grows while you're still working, and then you take it out when you're done. Well, you don't know how to grow that. You don't know what stocks to invest in, what your portfolio should look like. So you have a financial manager who does that for you. And he doesn't just do that for you, he does that for many clients. So these people typically are the ones who love to follow the stock market. They love to follow trends. They're very analytical. So they're looking at reports. They're reading business news. And so they just love doing this all the time. My college roommate, that's what he does now, and he was obsessed with it. Still is. They just have a different mind. So if you're someone who enjoys numbers, enjoys business news, this might be for you. The income range is anywhere from $90,000 to $160,000. But there's a plus sign at the end of that 160 because you could be very good at what you do. And by being good at what you do, practically it looks like two things. Or number one, you pick up a lot of clients. So how do you pick up a lot of clients? Well, it's because of what you do. So you pick up, let's say you start your career, you pick up some clients. There's their friends and their family, whatever. But you start growing their portfolios. You do a good job. Word of mouth is what's going to grow your clientele in this particular role. So then as you progress in your career, you're picking up more and more clients. Now, mind you, these are lifelong clients, right? So you're not constantly going out and having to earn a new client all the time. So once you get a client, typically they're going to stay with you forever, right? Because they don't want to take all their money and move it to a different institution and meet a new person. They want to give you money, put it on autopilot, set it and forget it. It's a convenience thing. So once they find someone they like, hopefully you're the person they like, they stick with you and they keep their money with you. So as your career progresses, you pick up more and more clients. Not only are you picking up more and more clients, the clients you're picking up, as you grow older, the clientele that you get is also typically progresses. And the older clients have more money. So, think if you're a 25-year-old, fresh out of the womb financial advisor, the clients you're typically picking up are probably other 25-year-olds. Well, what do 25-year-olds all have in common? They're broke, right? So when it comes to how much money they're going to give you to invest in their portfolio, well, that's going to be not a lot. Maybe it's $500 a year. I remember when I got out of college, my buddy who was a financial advisor, I'd give him $500 a year. I'm like, dude, that's all I can afford to give you. And he happily took the business. Sure. Why? Well, because he knew that, yeah, I don't mean much to him now, but in 10 years, his mindset was that, well, in 10 years, you're going to be successful and you're going to be making a lot of money. And if you're making a lot of money, you're going to take 5% of that or 10% of that every year and give it to me to invest for your future. And he's right, and I have been doing that. Um, so as they grow in their career, their clients grow, and so they're adding clients, and then those clients are also growing. So you can see how there's an exponential growth there. Um, and it can be exciting for a financial manager. The name of the game is growing their clientele and growing their clientele's portfolio. Um, so it can be very fun for someone who is very into investing in the stock market. Um, so with that being said, the $160,000 top end range, um, if you can picture yourself 20, 30 years in your career and you're 55 years old and you've got hundreds of clients and you manage portfolios worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Well, how these folks get paid is typically off of a percentage of earnings that they get for their clients. So if you're good at what you do and you manage $100 million portfolio of all the clients that you represent, you're going to get a percentage of those earnings, right? So if you have more money in the pot to invest, the dollar amount of the earnings is going to be higher. Therefore, the percentage that you get off that earning is going to be higher, and that's your take home. So you can really make a lot of money as a financial manager. I would say, really, there's no cap. Um, you could very well make $1 million a year being a financial manager, and that's not unrealistic if you're good at what you do. Um, Okay, last thing on financial managers is typically you see them working for some sort of financial institution, um, Miller Financial, some of the bigger banks, obviously, um, Pacific Life. You see ads, that's a huge one. But there's a lot of mom and pop, right? Look, Google in your area, financial advisor. A lot of them is just the name of the guy, John Smith Financial Services. Um, so you have, far and wide types of ways you could be a sole proprietor. You run your own little business, or you could go work for a big company. So pros and cons to each of those. Okay, IT manager. So this is different than a what was the one we mentioned earlier? This is different than a enterprise architect. All right, so this one you're typically going to be working for a company. That's like not a software company, right? Maybe it's a mattress manufacturer, and you're an IT manager, and you go into the office every day, and you have to make sure that all of that company's IT is working well, right? And the bigger the company, um, the more layers you have of responsibility. So you might, as an IT manager, you might work under a CTO, a chief technology officer, right? But that might be at a massive company like General Motors. They certainly have a CTO, and then they certainly have many, many, many IT managers. And those IT managers, um, they may manage a team of other folks, or they may just manage a certain facility's IT. Um, so they might be like at one plant. It's like, hey, you're in the Dearborn plant, and you have to manage all of the IT infrastructure. So if you need to hire some people, do that. But basically, you need to make sure that nothing goes down. We have internet, we have physical assets that we need, we're protected, we're able to communicate. That's your job. Income range is $90,000 to $150,000. This is going to depend on your experience, how long you've been doing it, how good you are, and then the company you work for. So if you work for a very small company, right? I don't know, like a car dealership around the corner there. Yeah, you might make $80,000, $90,000. That would be a good wage for someone like that. But if you're an IT manager for a manufacturing plant, for General Motors, you're probably making $150,000, right? And then you would go up from there. Like maybe you would then become a director of IT, and then you become a CTO one day, right? That would be the pinnacle of that career path as a CTO. And in that case, you're making millions. If it's for a General Motors example. Okay. Next one, marketing manager. So very similar to IT manager. Actually, a lot of the same things apply. You're looking at $80,000 to $140,000. And this is this range here. This is for if you're working for a company, right? So you're not working within a marketing firm that has clients. You're working for a company, and they have a marketing function, and you manage that. So the smaller the company, the less you get paid. The bigger the company, the more you're going to get paid, and that's due to the revenue the company generates and how big your team is. Right. So if you're managing a high-powered marketing operation for $100 million company, you're probably going to be making more like $150,000 to $200,000. If you are managing the marketing function for a small $3 million company with one person, you might be making $60,000, $80,000. So there's a lot of money to be made there, sure, but you have to be very talented, and you need to be ready to climb the ranks. And if your company that you work for doesn't have ranks to climb, that's okay. Get experience there, and then look for a bigger company. Make a move to another company, but make it a vertical move. So you go from a marketing associate to a marketing specialist at a bigger company, and then from there, at that company, you go up to a marketing manager, and then you move to a bigger company, and then you move to a bigger company as a marketing manager, and now your team grew, so your income grew. And then from there, you move to a director of marketing for that bigger company. And then maybe now you're director of marketing for that bigger company, and now you move to a bigger company as a director of marketing. Now you get paid more. And then from there, you climb the ranks, and one day maybe you're a chief marketing officer at a decent sized company. And then you take a leap as a CMO to a bigger company. You get the idea. And in that case, you're a CMO for a Fortune 500 company, you're probably making over $1 million a year. All right, we've gone through 12, and I promised 50. So I wanted to keep this video an hour long, so look for the next videos. I'm going to be continuing this into several videos, and we're going to go keep this list going on. But we have a few minutes left, so I think we can squeeze out another one. Air traffic controller. This is one we always forget about, probably because we never see them. They're up in the tower. Now, if you've seen Top Gun, then you know this person. It's when they buzzed the tower, right? That's an air traffic controller. They're making between $70,000 and $150,000 a year. And basically, they're coordinating the movement of air traffic, right? They're the ones talking to the pilots while they're flying, saying, yes, you're clear for takeoff, you're clear for landing. Essentially, their job is to avoid crashing near airports. So if they need to circle the airport, that's the guy telling them to circle the airport, right? Because the strip isn't ready yet. So a very important job, thankless most of the time. We usually, when we fly, we just take for granted the air traffic controller, but they're sitting up in the box in the tower, coordinating all of the movements, right? So they're like a play caller, like sitting up in the press box calling plays. Very unique job. Typically, there's only a handful of them at each airport. So it's somewhat competitive, I would imagine, right? There's only so many airports, and then there's only so many air traffic controllers at each airport. There's not really much climbing of the ladder there. So I think the name of the game here is getting in as an air traffic controller, and then staying with it, because the experienced ones are going to be getting a wage increase every year. So if it's something that you want to do, I would commit to it and do it for the long haul, because you might start off at a small local airport, but then maybe you're the head air traffic controller at LaGuardia, and in that case, you're making more than $150,000. I can tell you that right now. right? You might be making $250,000, $300,000 a year. Okay, I am going to do the next, 35 in the following videos. So check out the other videos where we're going to go number 14 through 50. And I don't think we're going to have enough time to go through the lowest 50, but maybe we'll do that in another series of videos. So stick around for that and more content about different occupations that are out there. There's so many, guys. We're going to go through them, ones that you've never thought of, and we're going to try to find ones that are high paying and go through how do you get that job? What's the training like? Do I want to do that job? Do I like the work-life balance? So all of that's going to be discussed in this channel. Very excited. Hoping to bring a lot of good content for those of you looking for a career shift or you're looking to enter the workforce. Looking forward to it.